Welcome to the Try Talking Sport podcast hosted by me, Joanne Murphy. Whether you are an athlete, adventurer, endurance enthusiast or simply have an interest in sport, you've come to the right place for inspiration, encouragement, motivation and just a little bit of entertainment. It's almost time for the clocks to spring forward, and I think this year especially we all can't wait for the brighter mornings and longer days of sunshine and warm weather. I've loved getting out on the bike the last few weeks. I even managed to clock up a 100k spin on Sunday. I took a notion last week that I'd like to get to 100k so that when our 5k restrictions on travel lift, sooner than later I hope here in Ireland, I can confidently and comfortably head out for a long day in the saddle. Going around in circles within our 5k is grand, but I'm chomping at the bit to get out on the open road and head out to Connemara for a change. Speaking of confidence, I was delighted to be a panellist on the Triathlon Ireland and Rowing Ireland Making Waves Women in Leadership webinar held on Monday night. The topic this week was using your voice. And although you'd think I would be fairly confident in delivering on my piece for the webinar, I was well outside my comfort zone, being on the other side of the microphone. I did really enjoy it though. It was a super session with Sinead Galvin from Galvin Sports Management, giving some great practical advice on using your voice. Last week, I announced our latest project, the Try Talking Sport Performance Hub, which I hope will become a central online destination for everyone who enjoys embracing adventure and endurance sport, with information, insight and inspiration to support your journey in sport, whether you are new to the world of endurance or are a long-time participant. The Performance Hub will have you covered. You can shape how the hub will look and feel by completing our survey, and you can check that out on our website, trytalkingsport.com. I'm really excited about this coming Friday, which sees the second episode of the Try Commute with Helen Murray from the Inside Try Show. This Friday, Nikki Bartlett, professional triathlete, joins us as a special guest for breakfast. Join the live audience from 7:30am. You can register on trytalkingsport.com or check it out across our social pages. If the first episode was anything to go by, then this is going to be lots of fun. Before we get into this episode, I want to give a special shout out to the virtual Galway cycle for Rosabel's Rooms taking place over the Easter weekend from the 2nd to the 5th of April. The Galway cycle traditionally sees cyclists make the journey from Maynooth to Galway and back over a weekend, with fundraising supporting a different charity each year. This year, Rosabel's Rooms is the charity of choice, which was set up by good friends of mine, Suzanne McLean and Gary Munro, following the sudden passing of their adorable Rosabel. This year, to support their work in collaboration with the Irish Hospice Foundation, they are encouraging people to swim, cycle or run their way through the Easter weekend by cycling 400 kilometres, running or walking 40 kilometres or swimming 4 kilometres. I'm planning to embrace the challenge over Easter. If anyone fancies joining me virtually to do any part of it at all, then please get in touch. To find out more about the virtual Galway cycle or Rosabel's Rooms, pop over to trytalkingsport.com or head directly to the Galway cycle on www.galwaycycle.ie. So to today's guest. I was thrilled to chat with Cath Pendleton. We had lots of fun and probably could have chatted for hours. Cath has become a household name in recent times as the feature of a recent BBC documentary that followed her adventures as an ice swimmer all the way to Antarctica. Known as the Merthyr Mermaid, she earned a Guinness World Record for the most southerly ice swim female as the first person to swim a mile inside the Antarctica Polar Circle. Her zero ice mile was in 0.03 degrees water and minus 3.2 degrees Celsius air temperature. Bloody freezing. She completed the mammoth swim in 32 minutes and 54 seconds. Cath's swimming accolades include swimming the English Channel in 2018, which began with her taking a notion to Google, how do you swim the Channel? She has represented Great Britain at the World Ice Swimming Championships in Russia, where she finished third in her age group. She has completed 8 official ice miles to date and a number of unofficial ice miles. She plans to complete the Ice Sevens Challenge by completing an ice mile ratified by the IISA in each of the 7 continents on Earth. Although the pandemic has delayed some of the timeline on this challenge, Cath continues to prepare for the challenges ahead by swimming in a recently built pool at home and sitting in a chest freezer daily. She loves swimming and loves ice swimming even more. Her immersion in cold, icy water is her sanctuary from daily life. Ice swimming, coupled with the social aspect of swimming, has had a huge impact on her life, resulting in a whole new world of adventure and exceptional achievements. Cath's passion for her sport is infectious. The vivid description of her adventure in Antarctica is fascinating. She may hate cold showers, but pop her in an ice bath and she is a magnificent mermaid and an incredible advocate for going after your goals with perseverance and dedication. Enjoy the show. Cath Pendleton, thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Oh, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Cath, tell me, where are you?
I'm in a village called Troyderoo in South Wales, and it's a sunny blue sky day today, so that's where I am.
It's a sunny blue sky, but you're actually in an ice house.
Yeah, I'm sitting in the ice palace as well, so I'm up my garden, sitting in an ice palace, aka a garden shed.
So you've called it the ice palace instead of the ice house, so does that mean you're an ice queen?
Oh, I don't know. I'm an ice mermaid, I guess. I think... my good friend Jamie Monaghan is always the ice queen in my eyes. So I'll be an ice mermaid.
An ice mermaid, because you are called the Merthyr Mermaid. So where did that come from?
Yeah, the Merthyr Mermaid. That's quite funny. So going back to the ice queen, when James was filming me, so he was filming me for 18 months, hoping that the BBC would agree to do a show. And he kept calling me the ice queen all throughout it. So it was like, you're the ice queen, you're the ice queen. And up until maybe a couple of weeks before the show went out, he messaged me and said, we're going to call it the Merthyr Mermaid. How do you feel? And I was like, oh, I don't know. But actually, it's really, really grown on me. And it's really funny because Troyderoo is just outside Merthyr. So I've lived here since 2006. So it's quite funny because my mum was like, you're not even from Merthyr, you're from Sennybridge. So I was like, well, Sennybridge Mermaid doesn't really rhyme. And then I really like the Merthyr Mermaid because, you know, it's a landlocked town and, you know, you'd get mermaids. So, yeah, it's really grown on me and I'm really happy with the title Merthyr Mermaid.
It's very catchy.
Yeah. Somebody local said, you're not even from Merthyr. So I am in a suburb of Merthyr. So you can't win whatever you call me. So you can call me whatever you like.
You just need to turn around and say, I'm sorry. Do you know what I have done and what I have achieved? I can call myself whatever I want.
Crazy Cath or Merthyr Mermaid.
Yeah, we'll get back to Crazy Cath when we get through the chat a little bit further. So, Cath, for people who don't know who you are you and what has led to you being on the show?
Oh, who am I? So, yeah, I'm a 49-year-old woman now from South Wales, and I absolutely love ice swimming. So through my love of ice swimming that started in 2015, I met Jay Kennedy. I met him in Poland, first of all, at Polish Ice Swimming Championships, and then just got to know him really through social media. Met him again at Mammoth. But in between times, he told me about the trip to Antarctica. And I'd found out about the Ice Sevens challenge and that Jay was trying to be the first man to finish and Jamie had already finished. And I was intrigued and I was like, I absolutely love ice swimming and I just want to swim everywhere, anywhere, all over the world. So I said, I really would like to go to Antarctica. So he was like, well, it's going to cost a lot of money. And I was like, well, I don't have any money. But he was like, well, how are you going to come? So I was like, well, I'm going to try. So I was really lucky when I did the English Channel, a company, Source Insurance in Penarth, sponsored me for it. And they paid for the channel and for some of my training. So I could just concentrate on raising money for two charities. And I told them about my ice swimming. So they had sort of dangled a carrot and said to me, you get across the channel and we'll talk about Antarctica. So after the channel, they agreed that they would sponsor me. The part of it was really expensive, Antarctica. So so I was super lucky. I then had another sponsor through Young Seafood. So finally, I was like, maybe about a year before, Jay, I can come. So he was like, okay, so all you've got to do is just keep training and training and training. And I was like, okay, I'll just keep training. And I just love the winter. So that's how you know me, through Jay and through Dee and through all the other lovely Irish people that I know. I got to go to Antarctica and got to swim my mile. And then, unfortunately, Jay wasn't well on the day. So I came away with a Guinness World Record as well. So as the first person to swim a mile that far south. So everything over the last couple of years has just been a crazy boom, boom, boom of good luck, hard work.
Bring us back, Cath, to way back to before you ever became an ice swimmer. You were a swimmer as a child.
Yeah, I used to swim. I learned to swim when I was about 4, I think. They built a swimming pool on the side of our school. So everybody in my village swam. And in the summer and the Easter holidays, we always swam in the river because, we didn't have PlayStations or anything back in the day. So you spent your whole holidays outside. So it was swimming, raft building, just at the river or at the mountains. We were just always outside. I swam probably what I'd say competitively from about the age of 8 to 11. So not very long. And I've always swum for fitness, but I rediscovered swimming as in like pool stuff through triathlon. So I moved back to Wales in 2006 and I joined a local triathlon group, but only for the swimming class. It's not really called a class. I don't know what you call it, swimming session on a Friday evening. And they kept telling me, do you want to try a triathlon? I was like, no, thanks. And I did try one in 2007 and it was horrendous. And I was like, I'm never doing that again. But I found myself back there in 2011 and I actually fell in love with triathlon for maybe 4 or 5 years. And through that, started doing some open water swimming. I enjoyed the open water swimming more than anything else, really, and started seeking out long distance swims and the cold water, winter ice swimming. I don't know, there's so many names for it at the moment, isn't there? Wild swimming, whatever. That came about because I'd hurt my back whilst I was doing triathlon. In a job I was doing, humping and dumping bikes. And
sorry, humping and dumping bikes. What does that mean?
Oh, I used to work for a cycle charity and we had bikes and we had like accessible trikes and stuff that we used to take around in a van to locations for people to use. And yeah, my manual handling skills were something to be desired. I ended up really hurting my back. So I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do if I can't, run and cycle and stuff. So I thought, well, I'll be still able to swim. And I seen an advertisement for a swimming gala. So this was September 2015. And I seen an advertisement. I think it was in the original outdoor swimming magazine. I think it was H2O, it was called then. And it was for a winter swimming gala in just your bathers in February. And I was like, who would do that? That's crazy. Because, I was swimming in a wetsuit. And I was like, that's really bonkers. And I said to my friend Rachel, I said, I really need a challenge this winter. Do you fancy it? And she said, I've seen it. Yeah, I'm up for it. So that's how it began. We just went to the river one Friday night before our club squad and got in. I think it was about 12 degrees. We managed about 8 minutes and we were absolutely frozen when we got out. But I always say, try something twice. So we went again and then I instantly fell in love with it. And I think now I've been ice swimming now since September 2015 and I'm not bored of it yet. I absolutely love it. So I think it's something that I'm always going to do.
You haven't been able to swim the last few months because of COVID.
No, look at my face. They can't see my face. My big bottom lip.
I'm going to screenshot that afterwards.
No, I haven't been. Well, it's a lie that I haven't been able to swim because in lockdown, I had a bit of a swimming pool frenzy in the garden. So from a basic paddling pool, I now have a really plush paddling pool that I can swim stationary on a tether. But I've got to be honest, I swim because I like going to see my friends and for the laugh that we have. So getting in the pool and putting the tether on and just keeping your head out, I do find really hard. I've swum once in the sea, but we're not allowed to because we're not allowed to travel to exercise. So I've been sitting in the gorgeous freezer every night nearly throughout January and February in the hope that one day soon we'll be allowed out to play again and I won't have lost a lot of my acclimatization. But when I swam the other day, I was just like so nervous. I was like, actually, I didn't even know if I can swim anymore. So, but you start and after 5 minutes, it just comes back. So I've just put a big posh marquee over my plush paddling pool. So my partner is like, you are going to get in there on your tether and you're going to use it. So at the moment, I'm trying to get him to put disco lights. I just need anything to distract me from swimming on the spot. I can't think of anything more boring. I've found it so hard not to swim. So, everybody out there that's not been able to swim, big hugs, because it's really sucked.
Talk to me about sitting in the freezer, because I have seen the images on social of you sitting in the freezer, and we were messaging prior to the show and you were telling me that you're literally sitting in the freezer most nights a week, and then one day a week you may swim in your plush paddling pool.
Yeah. So the freezer came about. Yeah, Dear Kennedy's responsible for the freezer because I got really worried because when we went to the ice champs, we had a really mild winter. So everybody started doing ice baths. And I borrowed one from the university, filled it with ice and sat in it like twice and just thought, that's the most horrendous thing ever. I can't take a cold shower. I just oh, no, I just can't do it.
Hang on a second. You can't take a cold shower, but you can spend 30 minutes at 0 degrees in the water swimming.
I can't even do the cold aisle in the supermarket or air conditioning. No, it's crazy, I know. But
I think I need to screenshot the shock on my face in this picture.
I've tried a cold shower in this lockdown. I can't do it. So I said to Jay, what's going to happen if we have a really mild winter? And I said, you've done the ice sevens and you've done some of your ice miles in the summer months. And he said, well, you're going to have to do like what they do in Australia, and they get a chest freezer and sit in a chest freezer. So yeah, on it like Sonic, I went onto Facebook Marketplace, found an old chest freezer for £50. And before Antarctica, I think in July, we put it up in my garden shed. I had a really old garden shed then that was tiny and used to blow open in the wind while he was sitting in it. So I found it really difficult. My partner loves the freezer. So I was just every week, probably twice a week on top of my training, sitting in this freezer. And I've come to the conclusion, I'm not sure how much it helps with your tolerance to the cold, but what it does help is with the mental mindset of getting in the water, so that initial shock goes away. And why have I been doing it? Because I've been really sad, and my partner comes and he says, right, we're going for a walk and you're getting in the freezer. And it's just become a habit of go for a walk and sit for 5 minutes in the freezer. And I don't want to say this, Casey's listening, but I'm actually starting to quite like it. I don't mind it as much. So, but I don't sit in for long periods of time. I know some people stay in for a long time, but I just stay in for about 5 minutes, and that's enough for me. Especially when I don't want to get in there. So I think if I can just get in there and grit my teeth. But I've started listening to the podcasts in there now, or I get my partner he likes to be silent. I need to be, talk to me, sing me a song, and so the time goes quickly. But I think when we can travel again, and hopefully I can continue with the ice sevens, then the freezer is going to be really handy, and even to the point that I might take ice out of there and chuck it in the plush swimming pool.
So I have visions of you sitting in between the bags of the frozen peas in the freezer, but I presume that this is a freezer that's filled just with ice and at a certain temperature, and you're not sitting on top of food.
No. So basically it's really clever. We fill it, and then some ice forms. Obviously it's turned off. We've got a set of rules what we have to do to make sure it's unplugged. So it's full of water, and then after a couple of days the ice falls off the side and we smash all that up. So it's literally an ice bath that's housed in the freezer. And then the water, we tend to empty it after about 10 days. It gets a bit stale. Some people have pumps and all sorts in there, but we just find it easier just to empty it, bleach it, and start again. But it's crazy. I'll have to show you after this. And my partner, he's like really, if it gets above 0, he like puts it back on again. And I'm like, it's okay for it to be like 2 or 3. You can just leave it. No, it's got to be 0. And he's got a new trick that he's discovered. If we move our hands in there, it really hurts, because that's the thing, when you're swimming, when I'm swimming in the small pool, it really hurts, because it's quite small. But in the freezer, you're just sitting there and not moving. So as soon as you start moving, the pain is absolutely excruciating. So he's just now, you have to do 30 seconds of moving your arms before you're even allowed to get out the freezer, which he thinks is going to teach my brain to remember what the ice is like. So I'm going along with it, but it really hurts.
And does he swim as well, Cath?
He hasn't, obviously this winter he hasn't swum. Last winter he got in most of the time. He's not a strong swimmer, but he will get in, and he'll, up at the pond that I train in, it can be really, really wild. If there's waves on it, he won't go in. If there's any stop, he's like, there's waves on it, I'm not going in. But he likes to be in, he likes to swim and be in the water, but he doesn't need to do it like I need to do it. He needs to go out on his bike. He cycles and he needs to go out on his bike. I need to swim.
You did your first ice swim really soon after getting into it.
Yeah, I did. And I took a bit of flack for it, actually. So what happened was Rachel and I started swimming, and then we roped another friend in, Roz. She's a triathlete as well as a super triathlete. And because the rivers were flooded, we put an advert out on or a post on Facebook saying, look, we need somewhere to swim because the rivers are in flood and the sea's too cold. So our friend Vicky, the four of us called ourselves the Dippy Dragons then, she came on board and she told us about the pond and some other places. But she's responsible for telling me about the Ice Mile. So we were all training from September to the February to do the Chill Swim Gala. And Vicky that we met, she'd already been ice swimming and winter swimming for 2 years, but doing it on her own, which I think was crazy. Her partner was always with her, but I was like, I do it because it's fun with my friends. But she was like, no, I really like how it makes me feel. So she told me about the Ice Mile. So I was going 4 or 5 times a week. I was completely addicted. I was just like, anytime I could be at the pond or the river, I was there. So I decided, once she told me about this Ice Mile, we'd already done 2 when we'd been swimming. So I was like, I think we should just do this. And we'd asked a few people. So we decided to set it up on ourselves. And I wouldn't recommend that. I go to Swim Your Swim or travel. I've been to Ireland and done one, and I've been to Holland, and I would just like to go to an organised one because it's quite difficult to do it. So we decided that we were going to do it. And I actually did my first Ice Mile in the January, starting in the September. So, Vicky had been doing swimming for 2 years by that time. And I absolutely loved it. I was clearly hypothermic at the end because I turned into like a Miss World speech. I love everybody. Everybody's wonderful. And then my friend Vicky has a really recovery. So from there, I was just like, I love it. I just love it. And I don't know what it is. I think some people can tolerate the cold better than others. And for me, I think it's because you just totally zoned out. So that's why I like it, because I'm really hyperactive and it's like I'm really zoned out. So yes, so that went well. And then from there, I was just like, okay, I just want to keep doing Ice Miles. So I've done 8 official ones, and then lots of unofficial ones. So like Jay was really good about my training, and I was from the October until we went in the February. I was doing an Ice Mile every week in training in all sorts of weathers, which is really tough because an Ice Mile's tough. But luckily, I had my partner, and I never had the pressure on myself that I had to do it. But if I was in the water and I felt okay, I would do it. And that was something that I found really important, that I didn't really have a training schedule if I have to swim so much outdoors. It was just, I said to my partner, I don't know how we did it. And he was like, we were there all the time, Cath. But because I was swimming with friends, and, if I got in the water and I wasn't feeling the love that day, I would just get out because I knew that I could go again the next day or whatever. So, yeah, I got hooked really quickly. And I think they say it takes about 2 or 3 seasons to train for it. But maybe it was just in my genes from all that river swimming when I was a kid.
Yeah, we call those days where you get in and you're not feeling the love. It's a no ambition swim day.
Yeah, and I think it's important to recognise that, isn't it? It can be so dangerous, and I really worry about after drop and a bad recovery. And touch wood, I've never really had a bad recovery. I'm able to recognise that I'm not okay, but I think it can change so quickly. So that was probably one of my big fears for Antarctica, really, that I I didn't want James from the BBC having me film getting carried out on a stretcher or something, half dead, you know.
Did the documentary with the BBC put additional pressure on you out in Antarctica?
No, actually, it didn't. Well, in a little way, I was thinking, I've got to do this because I got this camera. But James was absolutely lovely. And because I'd known James for like the 18 months prior, he was actually really like a big brother, and he was really calming. He's a very positive person. And when I was having lots of self-doubt, you know, the night before was a bit of a wreck, and my friend Jane, she was like, Cath, you trained like an ice mile every week, just shut up, just get in and swim, you've got this. And James was like, Cath, you've got this. Do you know what I mean? It's just like keepers, you've got this. So having them there was amazing. But of course, like the bit where I take on water because I tried to be really clever and thought I'm going to swim this swim, and I'm going to be really relaxed, and I'm going to try bilateral breathing, and I'm going to look pretty and all this stuff. Because when you first see me swim, the first sort of 10 minutes, you think I'd never learned how to swim. I'm just like all over the place. And then I kind of find my rhythm, and I'm quite happy. But the added pressure that I did have was about speed, because everybody was talking about 30 minutes. And I kept saying, I cannot do a mile in 30 minutes. So I had been in my training, probably averaging between 31 and 33, 34 quite regularly in the pond. So I knew that I could probably do 35, but the sea's not my natural environment either. So I was a little bit worried about that. So I kept saying, I won't do it in 30 minutes. Please don't. Like, unless somebody's going to put a jet on me, I won't do it. And I was right. I was just under 33 minutes. So I did swim really, really hard. But stupidly, I took on this water. And then I was like, I can't cough and stop and go, because, you know, it's 0 degrees at the end of the day. I can't go, I just need to cough this up. So luckily, on a previous swim, I'd had a cough when I shouldn't have done an ice mile because I was a little bit under the weather and I had a cold. And when they asked me if I was okay, I said, yes, I'm fine. But I wasn't. And I had to cough under the water on that. So, yeah, I think the camera just, do you know what? I'd been talking about it for 2 years. Do you know what I mean? So, and it was such a privilege to be there. So I was just trying to think all happy thoughts. And then every now and again, it would pop in about something eating me. And then I would be thinking, smile for the camera, wave to everybody supporting me on the boat. And they were brilliant on the boat. They had the Welsh flag there, and I could hear them screaming the whole time, and there was thumbs up. And I had, you know, no doubt that they were watching my every move. So if anything changed, they were just going to pull me out of the water anyway. So it was just amazing. I just wanted to do it the next day. It was lovely.
Explain to me the difference between swimming in the Antarctic Polar Circle, which is very, very south, versus where Ger swam, because Ger did do the ice mile, but he didn't do it as far south as you.
So the plan was that Ger was always going to swim inside the Antarctic Circle if we could get there, because obviously it depends on how much ice there was. So things changed. He told me he was going to swim out at sea, and I was going to swim parallel to the shore with all the other swimmers. So I was like, oh, can I swim out at sea? And he was like, no, because he had to get special permission, and he worked so hard to get the trip off. So I was like, okay, less chance of getting eaten by a leopard seal. I'm fine with that. So everything changed on the boat because we only had so many days that we could swim. And, you know, Jay was having to make negotiations, and things were changing all the time. It changed that myself, Paul and Jay were going to all swim on the same day in the same location. And we managed to get just inside the polar circle at 66.6. And even then, it was Jay was going first. Then he said, you go second and Paul third. But James had said, look, I need to film Cath, and if you want me to film you, I need to film Cath going last. So it was like, okay, I'll go last. So that was that. And there was no difference really, just that, you know, the technicalities of getting that far south. Jay had a 0 as well. And that was the other thing, you know, we weren't guaranteed a 0. So I was going there to get my 0 ice mile. There was nothing about records. It was just go and, you know, get your 0 ice mile for your ice 7. So, you know, it took a while to sink in that I had actually done something that hadn't been done before, because Rambark, I had swum a kilometre. He swam further south. I think he swam at 70 degrees. But, because it was something that wasn't done, I won't go into it on the podcast, but it was really difficult to get that Guinness World Record. But, I did it, and yeah, it should be celebrated. So I was really, really chuffed to get it. And Welsh ladies can be quite stubborn.
But what was it like getting off the boat and into the water? Describe it for us. I know there was the documentary, but unfortunately in Ireland we haven't been able to access it on the BBC iPlayer. So I'm sure it was well described in the documentary. But just you're sitting on the boat, ready to go into the water. What's going through your head?
Well, before we even got in the water, I was meant to swim to this beautiful, massive, massive iceberg opposite the boat, which was 400 meters away. And Jay was like, look, you're going to swim there and back twice, and then you'll do a little bit extra, maybe 50 meters, to make sure that we've got the mile, we've come all this way. So I was like, okay, that's cool. And I was thinking, well, it's a beautiful iceberg. And then what happened was a massive pod of orcas, killer whales, passed, that were teaching their babies how to hunt. And everybody shouts, orcas. And I was like, because I hadn't thought of orcas, I was only ever thinking of leopard seals. And
as you do.
And Reddy said to me, are you going to come and look, Cath? And I was like, no, thanks. I don't want to see them. And he was like, well, they're just big fish. So I kind of sat there with my cup of coffee, as I always am with my cup of coffee. Jay, bless him, he was like, look, I'm coming on your boat. He was so disappointed that he couldn't swim. He said, I'm coming on your boat. So I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. But I was grateful because Jay knows how I swim. So he said, but the problem is you can't swim to that iceberg anymore because all the ice had been disturbed, and they were worried that if I started off, the ice could move and then I would be trapped behind. There was floating ice everywhere. So I would be trapped behind this ice. So I said, well, what's going to happen? And he said, well, we're going to drive you a mile from the boat and then you'll swim back, which was absolutely hilarious because I always say I hate doing laps. I like A to B, or I like circular. So I actually got my wish. So that was really funny. So I get all rolled up and I'm ready to go, and my bottom lip's quivering. And then they stop the boat by this massive iceberg. So I start stripping off and they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I'm getting ready. And they're like, Cath, we're like halfway. And I was like, what? And I looked back and the boat was like miles away. And I was like, they're like, do you know how far a mile is? And I was like, oh, a long way, obviously. So they like get that change. So they say, well, at least when you get to this iceberg, you're going to know that you're at the halfway point. So in my head, I was just thinking, this is just like mad. It's craziness. So we get to where we have to go, then do the comms with the boats, and I strip off and make sure my goggles are on. And then my friend said, you just like plopped up the side of the Zodiac. And I was like, well, there was no other way to get in the water. So I jumped in, and it was so weird. And maybe the freezer did help. But when I jumped in, normally when you get in cold water, you get that really cold shock and your hands hurt. I didn't have any of it. And I think my body must have just been like 100% adrenaline. So I jumped in, and it seemed for like what was ages that they were like turning the boats around and waiting to start. And then eventually they were like, okay, go. And when I first started off, I was thinking, right, don't panic, think about your stroke. And that's when I took on the water, because I was trying to do my bilateral breathing. And then I was just swimming away, and I was thinking, this is like bonkers. It's crazy. It was so blue. The water didn't taste salty. And then every now and again, I think leopard seals, and it's still orcas. A pod of 30 orcas have passed by maybe 5 minutes before, and I still didn't even think of orcas. I still only leopard seals. But then I would block it out, and then I would Martina, Tiffany, Jay, Matty, everybody shouting, and then I'd have James on the camera on the other side. So it was just brilliant, and I was just swimming along thinking, you're just so privileged to be here, so just get your head down and swim. And then eventually I did get to this iceberg that was halfway, and I got to this iceberg and I looked, and I was sighting, and the boat was just like never getting any closer ever. I was like, I think they're moving it. And I started to feel achy in my shoulders, and I was just thinking, oh my gosh, I should have really gone to the pool and maybe swam further than a kilometre or a mile. And then I was thinking, Cath, you're an idiot. You swam to France and it took you hours. You know, you were in the water for 16 hours and 45 minutes. Just get your head down and swim. And that's what I do that. I just laugh and, you know, I was just swimming along. And then my biggest thing was when I got to the Zodiac at the end, I knew I had to get up a tiny little ladder into the boat. And I'm not the smallest of people. And I was going to have these chunky hands and, you know, where my limbs going to actually work. So there's a funny video of me getting up this ladder. I don't know where I got the strength from to get up there. And falling into the boat with my big bum in the air. And then they take me back to the boat. And then my thing was that I wanted to be able to walk up the steps. And you'll see it when you get a chance to watch it, that I'm blowing my hands. So I think the adrenaline had finally run out and my body had realized that I was actually really frozen. But it was amazing. And then I had Dee and Catherine as my recovery crew. And yeah, it was just fab. Somebody said to me, I've never seen you so cold. And I was like, because I just did a 0 ice mile. Just would love to do it again. But I'd love to go there with a bobble hat on and just do some breaststroke and have a look around rather than head down and like actually kicking your legs and swimming hard.
It sounds absolutely fascinating. We had Tiffany Quinn on the podcast a while back as well, and she spoke about, I think she did 500 meters, but tipping off the iceberg. She swam to the iceberg, I think, and it was just incredible, like the scenery and everything out there. So I can imagine how much you want to go back there to actually just look around you while you're in the water.
Yeah, Tiffany swim and Gillian and Alice and Michelle, and I can't remember who else was swimming on that day. They had this beautiful iceberg that they had to swim back and forth. So instead of like, you can't go that close in case they tip, but it's like, you know, instead of touching a swimming pool wall, it was like swim to the iceberg and back and do laps of the iceberg. It where they swam. I had a test swim on that day around a beautiful iceberg. It was myself and Reddy. It was only about a 500-meter swim, but we got to go round this beautiful iceberg and the colors, and it's massive underneath. Like they say, Antarctica is just incredible. It was the whole trip, you know, it was a brilliant team. It was just amazing.
Can I ask you a question about your face and your lips? Because I know from swimming in Galway Bay, and the lowest temperature I've swam is 3.6 degrees, and people are, I suppose they're not fascinated, but they can't believe that you can put your face in the water and swim 300 or 400 meters in that sort of a temperature, even 5 degrees. But I find it's my lips and my jaw and even my gums get really, really numb and they're frozen. So how do you protect your face? Never mind your feet and your hands, but the rest of you. But it's just that whole face thing.
I don't know. I think it's just from continued exposure, I guess, you know, and the only thing I feel sometimes if the water gets sort of below 3 is you put your face in and my teeth really hurt. And I'm like, that's really cold. But I generally, probably at the start of the season, like I feel like I missed a whole season. We did get to swim a little bit in October. I feel sorry for myself and tell everyone I'd be locked away for a year. But I think we did have a little bit of freedom last year. I can't really remember. But I did manage to do a nice ice mile in November, and it was like 4.8. And I remember thinking afterwards, that was flipping freezing. It was like, but my face was really cold. And I think that was just because, you know, I hadn't had 3 or 4 months behind me to train. And I think that just goes, for me, it's my hands. My hands get really fat like everybody's, but I have a finger that goes into like a phantom claw. So I think that my fingers have clawed, and I look at them and they haven't, but it's like my one finger has gone across. So when that happens, that's when I know I'm nearly cooked. It's nearly time to get out. So as soon as I start feeling that finger, I have a look and I think, no, it's fine. And then for me, I think, no, right, okay. I've got a real fear about, you know, my arms and legs just stopping and just not being able to swim anymore. So as soon as I feel that, like, I think my stroke is is slowing down. I've got more sensible, obviously. The more I've learned about ice swimming, I've got more sensible. So now when I go to the pond, I will always swim maybe 1-2 long laps, which is sort of 450, 500 up and down. But then after that, I will always go to small loops now, because I just think, once you pass that kilometer, things just change, But on some days, you can swim 400 meters and be cooked.
Yeah, and it's important to know your limits as well. Even with winter swimming, never mind going to zero temperatures, but even the past couple of months, we've seen a huge amount of people take up swimming, myself included, and the daily dip. But that cold water immersion, the cold water shock, the after drop, they're all real things. And as you say, they can happen within a short distance. Jumping into the water without having acclimatized to it can cause trouble for you as well.
Yeah. And that's something that really scares me. So, I think, when I get back in the water, I think the temperatures are rising again now. But, I've been in my pool. I did about 20 minutes in my pool a couple of weeks ago, 15, 20 minutes, and it was 3 something. And I came out and my partner was like, "You don't look well." And I was like, "No, I don't feel well because I've not been in there." And I was just like, I obviously did too much. So just swim your own swim, because just because I can swim for 20 minutes, I think that does scare me, that people do push themselves too hard because they want to do what somebody else is doing. So I'm forever saying, look, some days I just dip, I swim around the pond, have a chat and get out. And I think your body knows. I just really, I've been to a few events where I've seen some really bad recoveries, and for me, I just think, how can that be enjoyable to, lose a couple of hours of your life when you're so hypothermic that you don't know what's going on? So I'm very safety conscious. We made a few mistakes in the beginning, and it wasn't popular. Pauline Barker, she was really good, and we asked her for lots of advice. And then I went to a winter swimming seminar with Emma Putzel at Portishead Lido, who really opened our eyes up to we need to be a bit more sensible with what we're doing. So yeah, I just love it. And it's brilliant how many people are swimming now.
But there's a huge piece around that whole area of education for winter swimming, but swimming in general, but specifically winter swimming. I think now that with lockdown and COVID, those of us that can get to the water are getting to the water. So there probably is a massive piece to do around education. Cath, how has ice swimming changed your life?
Oh, ice swimming for me has changed my life, as in I found something that I can do to, this is going to sound even more bonkers than swimming, something to do to relax. It is my go-to reset button. It's the only thing that I found that if I go off to the pond and I come back, it's like, so I call it my reset button, but it is like somebody saying Control Alt Delete. And I've got friends that say they're exhausted after ice swimming. I'm like Zebedee after ice swimming. So if I go for a swim on a Sunday, I hate cleaning. I think cleaning is like the job of the devil. Whoever invented housework, I don't know. So, but I will come home and I'm like a Duracell bunny. I'm like, yeah, right, come on, let's all do this. And for me, it's just that total, it actually re-energizes me. It's crazy, but it does. It just re-energizes me. It puts me in a happy place, it really does. And I have been to the pond some days where I really can't face getting in. And twice, I can tell you, I've sat in the car and spoken to a friend and said, let's just drink our coffee and go home. But that's only happened twice. And then other times it's like, well, let's just get in and do a whip and talk. And then you feel so much better for going and doing it. So it's changed my life, as in, I think I finally found something that goes, bump, shut up, Cath, start again.
I love that. Shut up, Cath, start again. Control Alt Delete. You're absolutely right. And I mentioned it in an article that I wrote for Newasan recently. For me, I find that your brain can be full, and I'm a natural chatterbox just like you, but my brain can be so full of things I need to do or I should be doing. And then you get kind of like a mental block and you can't do any more. And you're like, okay, I'm just going to go to the water. The alarm clock goes off in the morning. That's the first half of the day. Doesn't matter whether I'm in the sea 10 minutes later or 10 hours later, but that that dip in the sea, it just actually gives a lot of clarity, I think. And you're right, it is a happy place. And there's so much about the social aspect to it as well of swimming. And for a lot of people, especially in Ireland, I think now as well, we're not allowed to mix as households. So, you're not supposed to be calling to people's houses. But if you go down for a swim and you go down on your own, say to Ladies Beach or whatever, you're guaranteed to meet somebody that will say hello, or there's that nod of like, oh, how are you getting on today? Or what was the water like? And it's just that social piece that we all crave as human beings that we haven't been able to have. And I think we're very lucky. You get to have that social aspect that so many other people don't have, that don't participate in sport like we do.
Yeah, and it's been so difficult because, I'm working from home, and I said to my boss, I was really down in January. I was really struggling. I don't think I got changed. I was in my pajamas because nobody knows that I'm in my pajamas if I'm talking to them on the phone. And I said to my boss, I would have been better going to prison. I could have gone to the gym and I could have done my degree. And I said to her, if they just let me swim, because when I was swimming in the mornings, I would get up, I would be so productive. I would be out of the house at 6:30, 7 or whatever time. And then I come home and I was completely reset and I would get so much done. But now, because I haven't found that thing really to do, but I'm not going to be sad because I'm generally not a sad person, but I can't wait for the rules to change and get back up in the morning and go and meet my friend Pam and my friend Rachel and just get in the water and shiver and drive home and rush to get my breakfast and get on the phone to my first client and still shivering. But yeah, I really miss it, and I'm a really sociable person, so I'm just. I get excited when I have to go to the shop for stamps for work. It's ridiculous.
I love that. I get excited going to the shop for stamps. But it's so true. It is absolutely so true. I've taken to saying hello to everybody when I'm out on my bike now. It doesn't matter whether they're walking or cycling, and even out for a run. Half the time I'm like, how are you? How's it going? And I'm very conscious that sometimes when you say hello to somebody now, you might be the only person that they'll have seen for the day. So, if I could put a smile on somebody else's face, even if they go home and they say, Jesus, there was a one running today, and she said hello to me, I don't know who she is. Cath, I've loads of other questions I'd love to ask you, but we do have some audience questions that I'm going to go to now, if that's okay. Let me see here. So Hugh Fairclough, he's one of our Ironman photographers. He wants to know, what's your next challenge and what's your favorite place to swim in open water?
Oh, right. So my favorite place I'll do first. So in the winter, it's always Keeper's Pond. And then in the summer, I tend to go to the river at Wrekin or to some of the seaside locations in the summer. And my next challenge, well, I've still got the 4 of the Ice Sevens challenge to finish. So I was supposed to be in Canada in February, gone. I was meant to be in Australia in July, not happening. I am secretly hoping that I can go to Russia in May, but I don't know if that's going to happen. And then South America at some point. So I've got 4 massive swims that I have to do at some point. I've got a dream to swim in the Arctic. I'd absolutely love to go and swim at the opposite end of the world, but that's going to be expensive, and maybe some charming needs to go on with some sponsorship. But I've been very lucky so far, so maybe my luck's run out on that venue. And I'm doing a North Channel relay next year because I had an idea that I wanted to do the North Channel for my 50th, but I'm 50 next year, so yeah, that's not happening. And I'm not really fast enough at the moment, so I've been really lucky that Swim Smooth Southwest have said that they will have me as a sponsored athlete for this year. They've sponsoring 5 other people, so they're going to help me. I'm actually going to learn to do swim sets and all sorts of things that swimmers do.
I thought we had mentioned before the show that you don't do swim sets.
No, but yeah, but I'm going to do things that's like proper swim training. I think that's the plan. And I've got a new thing. I'm going to learn to free dive. So that, yeah, I really want to free dive, and I want to ice free dive, and I think that's another level of crazy. But that's something that I'm going to hopefully be doing next month. I did do some in October, but I couldn't equalize at about 7 meters, and I was just like, I quite like my years, so I have to go back and finish some stuff in April. So yeah, I'm always up for something. You never know what Kath's going to say she's going to do next. So
Crazy, Cath. Speaking of crazy and bonkers, a question I have for you is, what did your family think of you doing an ice mile or this crazy extreme sport of ice swimming? Your family specifically, but also your non-swimming friends, the people who wouldn't understand why you were ice swimming or the value you got from it.
Yeah, it is crazy actually. I've got a twin sister, and she's always recognized throughout, this is what my sister needs to do. Before, she used to do triathlon, she used to do mountain climbing, caving, I've canoeing, all sorts. But this is what calms Kath down, because my mum would be like, you're going to catch a death of cold and you shouldn't be out in these weathers. And I'd be saying, Mum, I haven't had a cold in 5 years. I'm like, fine. And I think she thinks she gets it, but I don't think she gets it. My good friend and neighbour Marie, when I was saying that I was doing a channel or was doing anything, she was like, you shouldn't be doing that. It's so dangerous. And you've got 2 children, and what something happens. And I was just like, I need to do stuff for me. And this is something that I do for me. So I always say to people, surround yourself with like-minded people that get you, that get it. And luckily, in the world of swimming and in the world of triathlon, there's an abundance of people that love ice swimming now. There's an abundance of people that enjoy going out for long cycles, long runs, and whatever. So I think you're always going to get somebody that says don't do that. And my partner's really good. He's like, you need to go swimming, and I'm like, okay. And he's like, the sooner you start back swimming, the better. And on the Merthyr Mermaid, my youngest daughter said, we say to my mum, go for a swim. And they do. They're like, Mum, maybe you haven't been swimming for a couple of days. So I think some people don't get it. People say, my triathlon friends from years ago were like, you're crazy. But, now more and more of them are starting to swim through the winter, and my one friend, she ditched her wetsuit last winter, and she's as hooked as me now. And before, she used to say to me, you shouldn't be going in the river after this much rain. But now I'm like, it's been rain. Oh, it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
There's a great saying, you can't do epic shit with basic people. So you surround yourself with like-minded people. I love that quote, and I think it's hugely important. It's like the collective suffering, that if you bring the people together and you do it together, it doesn't feel as bad.
Yeah, no, it's good. I think I've met some wonderful people through both triathlon and distance swimming and ice swimming, and I'm terrible. I'll get involved in things if there's a party. If there's a party, I am there. So
I'm actually having visions of you having like a freezer party in your house when you're allowed to have people over again and people can travel. I can imagine people coming with their portable freezers to sit in your garden. So instead of sitting out in the sunshine in canvas chairs drinking beer, there's like an ice pot party.
An ice pot party, yeah. Not last year, the year before Antarctica, loads of people were staying at my house because we were all going to Keeper's Pond and training, and yeah, every weekend there was somebody staying, and it was like, try the freezer.
The next question comes in from Roisin Coughlin, who is one of our 50-foot walrus challengers. She says, I'd love to hear if Cath thinks about her breath consciously when she swims, and would also love to hear her thoughts on how swimming positively impacts her mental well-being.
Yeah, my breath when I'm swimming is my tool to relax in the water when I first get in, because people say, how can you just get in and go? But I'm consciously thinking in my head, get your breathing under control, just really think about your stroke. And I almost smile because I'm happy to be in the water. So it's like you've got in that water and it's like, right, everything's going to be okay. I'm absolutely terrible as in consciously thinking. So I consciously think about it when I get in to get relaxed and get started. But I did a session in an endless pool with Colin Hill, and he said to my partner, she doesn't breathe. And I can't think of 2 things at once. So I'm not a typical female. So I don't have any sort of set pattern for my breathing, because I think I get so relaxed in the water. It's not that I forget to breathe. I just breathe when I need to breathe. So if somebody's watching me, I often say to them, don't take, if I haven't breathed for like 8 strokes or something, because I might breathe 2, I might breathe 3, I might breathe 5, I might breathe 10. It just depends where my head is in the moment in the water. And as far as my mental health, I hadn't realized how much I need it. I came back from Antarctica, so I obviously had that high drop from, something I've been training so hard for, and, hit the ground like a sack of bricks. And then on top of it, we were locked in and not allowed to swim. So for about a month, I was really sad. And my partner was brilliant. And he was like, right, come on, we're going to start working on this garden. And yeah, we worked really hard to get this beautiful ice palace in the pool. And we were out 12 hours a day, and that kept me going. But January, I think for everybody, even people that have been swimming, was a difficult month. But yeah, it really has impacted my mental health, my mood. For the first time ever, I'd actually considered going to the GP and asking them for something for my mood, because that combined with hitting the menopause, the dreaded big M, it's just been like, and my body, my joints and everything have been aching. And I think that's because I haven't been having that regular cold exposure. So the freezer helped, but just that feeling of being light and, just, it sounds airy-fairy, but with nature, isn't it? Just in the pond, it doesn't matter if it's raining, snowing or sunshine. It's just lovely. So yeah, it has had a huge impact on my mental health. And fortunately, I have been able to dip, and I have been able to sit in the freezer, because like I said earlier, I can't take a cold shower to get that buzz. But I love it. But I haven't done any like Wim Hof workshops or stuff, but I'm thinking about it now that I'm going to be trying free diving. And it would be interesting to see if I could do some breath work, because I'm so hyperactive. So the only time you can stop me is chuck me in the cold water, and I have to stop and concentrate.
Make you swim, and then you can't talk anymore.
I know.
I'm sure we could find a way to talk underwater. There's bound to be some way that we could talk underwater. Martina Passman asks, what was your most unusual experience swimming in icy cold water?
Oh, I don't know, actually. Well, that's a difficult one. There's nothing unusual. I've had some difficult swims. I did the Scottish Champs one year, and we swam in Loch Lomond, and I thought I was going to drown. The weather was horrendous. There was chop from every direction, and the unusual experience with that kept me going through that was you had to do 4 laps, and there was an upside down umbrella. So every time I passed this upside down umbrella, I knew I was okay. So I had to share that with everybody that was swimming after me. I was like, just look for the upside down umbrella. And I often do that with things, just look for funny things. One of my first ever 5Ks, I was like counting rubbish on the bottom of a lake. I just do weird things when I'm swimming. And I do talk, because I sing. I sing in my head and blow some bubbles and just do stupid things. On long swims, I'm like so airy-fairy.
Do you ever listen to music when you're training? Not necessarily in the really cold water now, but say if you were, going for a longer, warmer swim.
Yeah, I did buy some earphones when I was trying to do pool training for a while, and I thought it would help. But to be honest, it hurt my ears, and it just distracted me so much, because, I was just like, no, and I think for me, I don't think it's a good habit to get into, because when you're on long events and stuff, I used to try the same, if I went for a run, I would put my headphones on. But then, I don't like running very much at all. But then on a triathlon, and you go out on your run, and it's suddenly, where's my music? Where's my music? And it's like, so I've never really got into listening to music, probably for that reason, from when I used to run and stuff, that I just thought, well, I'm not going to have it on the day, so I'm not going to train with it.
Mike McCutcheon asks, have you had many jellyfish stings, and do you just get used to them?
Oh, Mike, I got a funny story about jellyfish stings. So before the channel, I was doing a training camp with Adam Walker, and I said, I really want to get stung by a jellyfish, because I need to know how it feels. And he was like, Cath, that's like a really crazy thing to say. And I'm like, but I need to know. So my friend Ros and I were swimming in Aberavon one evening before it. And I'm not kidding. I think we must have been stung 100 times by compass jellyfish. And it was horrendous. She took a really bad reaction to it. We went to a cafe and were tipping vinegar and all sorts of stuff over ourselves. Whether it was the right method, I don't know. So I do think you just get used to them. That's something that, the North Channel, I've heard so many bad things about the lion's mane jellyfish. But yeah, I think you just get used to them. I think it's I swam to the Isle of Wight and back once, and that was the moon jellyfish, and that was a bit horrendous because you were in like jellyfish soup and you were actually like throwing them out your way. That was disgusting.
Ugh.
They're not my favorite things, but on my actual solo swim, I was looking for them because I didn't see anything. I'd seen like one jellyfish and one lollipop wrapper all the way to France. That's all I've seen. And I was just thinking, where's the jellyfish when I want something to look at? So, yeah, but so they can be amazing jellyfish, can't they? But they do sting.
Yeah, I just don't like the feeling of them. It's just, but then at the same time, I just don't like the feeling of seaweed under my toes either when I stand on a rock.
Oh no, I freak out. I'm a bit of a wuss. I swam into a really big one once. I'd gone to Porthcawl and the water's quite grey, and this lady was a bit nervous. And I said, "Oh, I'll swim with you." And we were swimming across the bay, and all of a sudden, I must have swum into a massive barrel, and my nails went straight. But I thought I'd swam into a person. Must have been huge. And I screamed the bay down. I was like, whoa, it's disgusting. All jellyfish blob in my fingers. But
no. Yuck. No. Oh, let's move on quickly. I think we've already answered this question through our discussion earlier, but Dean Thomas says, with the pandemic and our really tight travel restrictions here in Wales, how have you managed to keep motivated for your endurance swim training and cold water acclimatization?
I found the Her Spirit community, which is a woman's app, and through that I started doing like a boot camp in January and Feet First in February, where I was out walking every day. But in true Cath style, I decided to do a half marathon for my last event, walking about 2 or 3K a day, not far. And I had massive blisters. I had a lovely day out walking, but I suffered for it after. And I bought myself an electric bike. I absolutely love it. It's amazing.
Tell me more about this electric bike.
Oh, my electric bike's fab. So I feel I'm too heavy and unfit to go on my road bike. So I didn't want to go on my road bike because I thought I'd end up in hospital. So, they're saying that it's dangerous to open water swim. I'm much more dangerous on a bike. So I had a mountain bike, which I call my Tonka bike. And I get really frustrated on a mountain bike because they just don't go anywhere. You pedal and they don't move. So I decided I couldn't do long rides with Rob on my Tonka. So I'd seen a secondhand one, and it's like a hybrid. So it's really heavy, but I live on a cycle track. So actually on the flat, it's great. It just pedals along lovely. And then as soon as a hill comes, you just pop the assistance on. You've still got to work, but you just glide up these hills. All right. And everybody thinks you're super fit. And I'm just like, but then I'm like, it's okay, I got battery. But yeah, so I'm loving it. But I'm a real wuss in that I can't go downhill. I cry. When you go down really steep hills. No, I'm not very good at that. But this electric bike, it's just meant that we can go out for like 20, 30 miles, and you come home and you still know you've been cycling because I take the assistance off on any flat. But when your knees start to hurt a little bit, you can just put it on and just pop up the hill.
And it must feel like such freedom getting out on the bike as well. Yeah,
you can get so much further than walking. I like walking, but 4 hours out on a bike you can go far, whereas walking you can't. No. So I've just tried to do other things really.
A friend of ours, Ciara McMullen, who's part of my Blackrock Banter swimming group, is going to be the official ice swimmer, the next ice swimmer from Galway. I firmly believe it. She gets into the water. She doesn't feel the cold. She doesn't wear any booties or neoprene hats or anything. She's been getting in every single day. She never gets an after drop. She hasn't ever gotten the after drop. but she jokingly says, I don't feel the cold. And she gets after drop FOMO because she doesn't have it. So she doesn't know what it feels like. And she wants to know, do you ever get after drop FOMO?
Yeah, I don't really get the after drop often either. There's only been a couple of times that's been when I swam in the river and when I've been tired. And somebody told me it's because of the wind and the current. And I probably don't know enough, but if I'm not careful, experience after drop when I get back into the water. So that's something that I'm going to have to be really careful with. I see some really violent shivers, and that scares me. I don't want violent shivers, but I think we all get it to a degree. But I never want to feel ill after it. And touch wood, I've only ever had where I feel a little bit sick and nauseous, and that's only happened maybe a handful of times. And then I can usually relate it back to I was tired. It's usually been in the river, and I've probably overcooked it a little bit.
My sister, who I managed to drag into the sea in October to start some winter swimming, who is still swimming, splashing away 2 or 3 times a week, she would love to know, what's been the biggest challenge you've had to overcome to become an ice swimmer?
Biggest challenge I've overcome.
Oh, sorry. I meant to mention that after her last swim, she turned around in the car and she said, oh, by the way, I'm going to do an ice mile.
Oh, that's amazing. I think the biggest challenge for me has probably been some of the negativity around it, really. I've put on a lot of weight. I don't know if that's down to ice swimming or whether it's down to the dreaded big M catching up, or just not exercising as much as I used to when I used to do triathlon. So I find the weight and trying to keep my weight down quite a challenge. I do, I seen somebody the other day saying they've lost 45 pounds since they've started cold water swimming. And I'm like, what? No, it's not happened. I think my body's just gone, you are crazy and we're going to keep you fat. But I think my biggest challenge is probably negativity, because I'm not a negative person, and I just think, just let everybody do what they want to do and be safe and celebrate each other. So there's nothing being, I've never found ice swimming a chore because I love it. So getting in the freezer last year was a chore. And I think Rob did a brilliant job getting me in there, because obviously, that was a real mind game to get me to sit in there. And I was sitting in for a lot longer before Antarctica. But no, there's no real difficulties. I just love it. I absolutely love it. So it's crazy. It didn't even feel like a chore when I was training, because I was doing what I loved. And I joke, in the winter, it's like my happy time of year. And, I've been really sad because I've missed a whole season now, really. And although I've had my ice palace in the pool, I think I've just missed the whole thing that I like about it, where so many friends, the year before Antarctica, we were meeting like 20 of us regularly, 10, 20 of us, swimming, going for a walk, doing another dip. And I just really miss the social side. But no, there are no difficulties, because I absolutely love winter swimming, ice swimming, whatever you want to call it.
And it's funny to hear you mention that the negativity around it is one of the challenges, because you're such a positive person and you've got such a positive attitude, and surrounding yourself with those like-minded positive people, you can feed off that and you can go home on a high, the high of the endorphins from the cold water swimming, but also the high on the endorphins of the social aspect as well. I want to ask you, Cath, about being a role model for other women. You mentioned there about putting on weight and the menopause and things like that, but you've got such a positive outlook, and it's such a positive body image thing to be putting on your togs and to be photographed. And none of us like to be pictured in lycra as triathletes or in swimming togs, but you've broken down a barrier for lots of us that might be uncomfortable stepping out in our togs, because we see you in your togs all the time. It's normal.
Yeah. Inwardly, I hate it. I have to be honest. I was so critical of like the pictures and James and stuff. But you know what? This is me. Like it's what I do, and before Antarctica, everybody's like, don't lose any weight, you need it. And now I'm like, okay, I don't need it. And, I think somebody wrote a really nice article the other day about weight, and weight should never be an issue. So I really struggled when I got back being called an athlete. When people were calling me an athlete, I found that really difficult because I was like, well, I'm just Cath and I like ice swimming. And my friend really told me off. She was like, Cath, you are an athlete. And I was like, well, I don't know. And then my partner said to me, he said, Cath, when you were doing triathlon and you were like 10 stone, if somebody had called you an athlete, would you have struggled with it then? And I was like, no. So, and that is because of body image. So, yeah. So although I maybe portray this person, I think there's nowhere that I can escape. But I think there's more things. My partner now is so positive. I've had, you haven't seen the Merthyr Mermaid, but it says a little bit about my past, and it hasn't always been happy. And he's so positive. He's just like, he just sees me as Cath. Do you know what I mean? And if I say something, he's like, what? So I think, I've surrounded myself with lovely people for friends, and now I've got this really supportive partner that has never ever mentioned my weight once. So I think I would love to be more body positive about it and celebrate it. But yeah, I think it doesn't matter. It's just get out and do it, isn't it? And I think, if that's what I'm remembered for, and that's the other thing, I didn't go to Antarctica to become a world record holder, and there was a lot of negativity around it when I got back, and I found that really difficult because I'm always, it's okay to be envious, but it's not okay to be jealous. We should all celebrate, everybody. I've got my swim heroes, I've got my tri heroes. I've had so much positivity out of the Merthyr Mermaid, you wouldn't believe it. So that for me has helped me. I think I've been so busy over the winter that's really kept me positive, in itself. And I think it's great. Triathlon's another one for that. It doesn't matter if you're, a size 8 or a size 20. Everybody's getting out and having a go, aren't they? And I think it does need to be celebrated. And I do struggle with it because, I will put myself down and say, oh, I'm not a fast swimmer, I'm not this or I'm not that. But I just love ice swimming, and I just say to everybody, it doesn't matter what you want to do, have a go.
I just think you're incredibly brave, and it's so empowering as well. You think about it, like I even think myself, like I'm not a skinny size 10. I never will be. I never was. But even for me, putting on my togs and going down for a swim in Salt Hill, I don't care anymore that my belly sticks out or that there's cellulite on my legs. I do care. Inwardly, I do care. So you're literally putting on your togs, and there's not an awful lot covering your body going into the water, but it is very empowering, especially if you have body issues or you mightn't be very confident in your body. Yes, you might be confident, but there might be areas of your body, like everybody has, those lumps and bumps that they're not happy with. So no, I think it's brilliant. And I think as well, Cath, what's also brilliant is that you've normalized or helped to normalize an extreme sport like ice swimming, that it makes it achievable to other people. So me looking at you now thinks, gosh, maybe if I was able to complete a couple of seasons of winter swimming, would I ever be able to complete an ice mile, or would I be able to complete a challenge like that? And I think that there's a huge amount that we can take from that coming out of COVID and looking to the future as to what we can do.
I think that's really lovely of you to say, to normalize it, because I spoke to a primary school yesterday, and one of the little girls asked me, do you think I could do it? And I said, yes. I said, if you love something enough and you train hard enough, I do think that there's people that can't tolerate the cold, but does that come down to time? So, somebody might have to train for 10 years to be at that stage. But I think most things in life you can do, most things. There's very little that you can't do if you persevere. Like, I'll never be the fastest marathon runner. Do you know what I mean? But if I wanted to do a marathon, I could train and I could do it. And that's the thing. And with ice swimming, it's like there's so many people out there that are so good. There was a lady, I've got to say this because I'm blown away by her. There was a French lady that swam in Holland in an ice event last month who swam, I can't remember her name. She swam for 52 minutes in 0.8 degrees. That blows my mind. You know, she's just somebody that swims every day. I think she lives on a canal boat in Holland, and she just swims every day and loves it. And she said she didn't even think she was an ice swimmer, yet she went out and achieved that ice mile. And I just think she's my type of woman, because that's what I do. I swim ice miles because I love ice swimming, not because I'm going to be a world record holder or anything. I just love ice swimming. The more I do it, the more people that you meet and the more like places you see. And I think that's, you know, really nice. Everything's accessible for everybody, isn't it? You know, there's only very few people that are ever going to be the top in their sport. Sorry, I was on my soapbox then.
You're absolutely right. I mean, how many people in the world make it to the Olympics? But it's actually about bringing it back down to empowering and encouraging the everyday person to be able to achieve their goals, whether that's the 5K run, an ice mile, or an Ironman, or whatever it is. So everything is achievable for those that set their goals. One or two more quick questions. And one of those is for anybody who's considering ice swimming, what sort of advice would you give them for starting out?
So if you're already out and swimming, that's great. Just keep doing what you're doing. And I think the more that you can do it, and it's all about not pushing yourself, you know, really staying within safe limits. Anybody that's new to it, even though you can go out and you can find a group, I would say if you can afford a one-off payment to find an instructor or go to an event that you can find everything that you need to be looking out for with winter swimming, that was invaluable for us, because us Dippy Dragons, the four of us got out of the river one day, and not one of us between the four of us could open our tow float to get our car keys out, you know, and that could have been disastrous. Do you know what I mean? Eventually, one of us got some dexterity in our hands. So I always say, you know, if people are thinking about doing ice kilometers, ice miles, you've got the Winter Swimming Association, you've got the International Ice Swimming Association. Fortunately, because of the explosion of winter swimming, I think more and more people are going to get on board. My favorite safe place to do an ice mile is Swim Your Swim in Hatfield, because they don't charge very much to do it. And you do 2 loops of an 800-meter course, and you have a boat with you constantly. So they're watching your stroke. It's difficult, but I would say, you know, for an ice mile, if you can, try and get an organised event, you know. And there's an event in Holland that I really liked as well. They do a night ice mile in the fall. That was really good. But I think it's all about just staying safe and just doing it because you enjoy it, you know. And I think if you enjoy something, nothing's ever a chore then, is it? And it's just being really sensible. And for me, it's all about making it your own swim, you know. Just never ever think because my friend's going to swim 20 minutes, I have to swim 20 minutes. I think I would never deliberately set out to swim the same swim as somebody else. I think that's really important. You know, I always have somebody watching me. I don't swim alone. And the reason I don't swim alone is because I got rolled in a wave. I was lying on the shore of the beach that I'd swum the day before on my own for 30 minutes, given my keys to the cafe, and just did like parallel to the shore, got out, had my coffee. The next day I did the same swim with a friend, and he was in his wetsuit and he was out saying, "Come on, hurry up." And I was just lying like a mermaid on the shore, just thinking, I'll get up now. And I went to get up, and a wave came out of nowhere and literally picked me up, tossed me around, spat me out. And I couldn't swim for 7 weeks before my channel because of that accident. And it wasn't even rough. I was just lying there, and I got out and I'm like just blood, and I was a mess. I say, where you can, don't swim alone, even if it's just somebody watching you, because you just never know.
Yeah, safety first all the way when it comes to swimming anyway, because the power of the water is so much more powerful than any one individual that gets into it, whether it's a sea or a river or a lake. I have one more question for you. And the question is, when you get out of COVID lockdown and restrictions, where in the world would you love to travel, aside from completing the rest of your 7 ice mile swims? But where in the world would Cath love to see herself for her first chilled out holiday abroad?
As in not swimming, just being on holidays.
Like just, well, whether swimming and chilling, I think it probably comes together for you. So you can be anywhere in the world. Where would you go?
Oh, wow. I don't know. There's so many places that I'd love to go. I'm a bit obsessed with the Arctic at the moment. I've got to be honest. I'm really obsessed with the Arctic at the moment.
I can see you sitting on a lump of ice, enjoying a nice glass of wine. Somehow I can't see you sitting on a beach on a deck chair.
No, maybe in Iceland. There's so many nice places to go in Iceland. There's so many lovely places. I keep seeing Barbara swimming all over Chile in these glacial. Oh, they look amazing. Canada. I've always wanted to go to Canada, and there's a lovely group of people in Canada that are willing to help support us through our swim. I got friends all over the world, and I want to just go and see everybody, and everybody come and see me. My partner loves sunshine, so if he had his way, it would be straight to a sunshine destination.
Just make sure the hotel has a spare chest freezer, and then you'll be perfect.
Yeah, I know. I think for me, as crazy as it sounds, I just want to go to the pond. I really just want to go to the pond and see my friends that I normally swim with. Then after the pond, I want to go to the river, because triathlon season's coming now, so the river will be packed again. And that's you can swim the river that I swim. You can swim a whole kilometre up and then back down. I did most of my channel training in that river. But the problem is it's by a golf course. And I get carried away really easily and start playing mermaids and picking up all the golf balls and come out with about 30 golf balls stuck down my bathers. And I'm just crazy. And you can do handstands in there. So, yeah, I get a bit carried away in there. And I want to go to the sea. And I've spoken to so many people on social media. And it's like, please come here and swim. And I just think I'm going to be a bit of a swim floozy and just going everywhere. And I want to come and tour in Ireland. I want to go to Northern Ireland. I want to go to Scotland. I want to go to Cornwall. I just want to go everywhere.
And all you need is your swim cap, goggles, and your togs.
That's all I need. And my camper van needs its battery recharging because it sat there and it's dead. Yeah, it's just going to be nice to see. I just want friends to come to my garden. I've got this beautiful pool with well, it's like a cow shed, but I call it my Marvy the mansion, and it's going to get some disco lights up soon. And I don't know. I just miss my friends so much. It's just I'm just used to being so busy. And like you were saying before, I was so busy before, and I got everything done, and now I'm at home and I don't get anything done.
I know. I think we're all suffering from it. And speaking of friends, I almost forgot to ask you this question that came in from Beth at All Things Water on Instagram. She said, if you're looking for a new best friend, can she be it?
Oh, bless her. Yeah, I've got to be honest. I'm blessed with so many friends. And I think everybody in the open water, ice swimming, any sporting community that you come from. But yeah, Beth's posted some really lovely things. And my friend Bubbles jokes with me. She's like, Cath, you just collect friends. But my partner's like, who have you been invited to stay now? And I'm like, well, it doesn't matter. Oh, there's room that they can sleep by the pool now, and we can put a bed in the ice palace. So, before we went to Antarctica, I think there was about 12 people in my house one night, and then we get up and make our picnic. And I just think my house is I better be careful saying on this on air, but my house is always open. Do you know what I mean? And people have always been really friendly, and when you come and stay. And I think that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's just life's too short not to take opportunities. And I was saying to these kids yesterday, if you want something, keep asking, because eventually somebody will give in and say yes.
That is very, very good advice to give to anybody, regardless of who they are or where they are. Well, Cath, I am so delighted to finally meet you virtually. I can't wait for you to come to Galway and to jump off Blackrock Diving Tower. Now, the water won't be as cold as the Antarctic, but I'm sure Ger Kennedy and Dee Newell and Fergal Madden and a few others will look after you. And William Murphy as well from the Walrus Group will come to Galway to see you and to have some fun swimming around Salt Hill.
Oh, that would be lovely. I can't wait. I've done hit the wall camp, which was amazing. So I've swum in some places, and I did an ice mile in Loch Dan as well, and that was amazing. That was really tough, mind. That was really, really tough. So yeah, and it's always a good party.
Well, that's it. Well, I'm telling you, once we can get out of lockdown, there's going to be some serious shenanigans, swimming shenanigans and socializing shenanigans when we get loose again. But thank you so much for your time and best of luck with everything. I can't wait to see you complete the 7 ice mile swims and see what other adventures the Merthyr Mermaid gets up to in the coming years.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget you can get in touch with any feedback or guest suggestions by emailing me on trytalkingsport@gmail.com. As always, I'd love to connect with you on social media. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn and Instagram. Pop by and say hi and let me know what you think of the show. If you are new to Try Talking Sport, please do check out some of our previous episodes. You will be impressed and inspired by our guests. Don't forget to hit the follow button for the show, and if you have 2 minutes to spare, a review on Apple Podcasts would be awesome. Until next time, stay safe, keep smiling, and remember, look for fun and adventure in every day.